Everybody, welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions, and I've got a very special guest, Grant Arthur from Grant's Rock Warehouse and the Contrarians, and you've seen him on a million shows, and he's taken the time to sit in on this episode. Hello, Grant.
Tim, nice to see you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this episode. This is something that I think we've talked about different times, and the subject of this episode is going to be songs from the 1980s, so songs from between 1980 and 1989 that charted on the Billboard Hot 100 between 50 and 41. So these are songs that came close to cracking the top 40, but not quite. And there could be a lot of reasons for that, but I think one thing that a trend that I noticed, because I compared the Billboard Hot 100 positions to their positions on the mainstream rock chart, and in some cases the Canadian charts. A lot of times these were, you could call them successful songs, and songs that got a lot of airplay just didn't crack the top 40. So this is one of my favorite sort of obscure subjects, and I've got 10 songs. Grant's got 10 songs. Technically, we have 19 because we each picked the same one.
Yes.
And I'm not surprised, but we will let Grant start us off. We're going to do this in chronological order. So we're going to start off in 1980, and Grant's got a most excellent pick for 1980.
I do. And this was like a no-brainer for me. Of course, when I'm looking at all these, now, a lot of these songs that I picked, I didn't really ever think about chart success. Just looking at these songs, and I either liked them, admired them, but I never ever paid attention to where they actually took off on the chart. So this exercise was actually pretty good, because I'm going, really? This only got up to this point on the chart? But a lot of my picks, some of them I'm looking at it, Tim, and I'm going, well, I probably can see why. My first pick, of course, we're at 1980, and we're going with a chart position of 44. Cheap Trick, Everything Works If You Let It. Now, back in the day, I don't remember this getting any airplay, maybe on FM rock radio. I don't remember any like popular stations playing this at all, but I was a big Cheap Trick fan. You could get this if you got that EP back in the day, that new disc. It was a 10-inch, and it came on that. This was also on the Roadie soundtrack. This played at the end credits, but written by Rick Nielsen. Essentially, all this is a rewrite of, oh crap. It's a rewrite of another song, only he took the chord progression and On Top of the World. He took the chord progression of On Top of the World and just did it backwards.
Okay.
So it's really not anything new, but it worked. And this was produced by George Martin. Thinking about the other stuff that came out in 1980, I'm not surprised it only got to 44. It's not like it's Voices or, it's not like a pop ballad of any sort. So I kind of get that it only went to 44, but still.
It's a
I
catchy
still
song.
like it, yeah.
Super catchy song. Yeah. I found that Found All the Parts EP, but I think most of the time you find a used copy now, it will not have that single with it. So it's got the 4 songs that are on it, and then it came with the extra 45. Now I've got this. It's not even on the CD, actually. I got a Japanese CD. I Found All the Parts, and it's not on there either. But it's on.
It's on
the
All
box
Shook
set.
Up.
Yeah, if you
Well,
get the deluxe All Shook Up.
if you get the remaster of All Shook Up, it's on there.
Yeah, and if you get, I think it's on one of the Epic Archive.
Yeah.
Those are good too. This song actually did crack the top 40 in Canada, but only just. It hit number 40. So good pick. Really good pick. My next one, my first one, is actually also from 1980. This, I think, is a fantastic, I'm just going to call this a fantastic pop song from a typically hard rock band, but they were in kind of a pop mode at this point in time. Kiss from the Unmasked album and
Yes.
Shandy. Yeah, I think this is a fantastic song, written by Paul Stanley and Vinnie Poncia, the producer. And Kiss's star was was falling at this point in North America. The song only peaked at 47 on Billboard, but around the world, much different story. I did some research. Number 1 in Argentina, number 5 in Australia, number 10 in Austria, number 6 in New Zealand, and number 4 in Norway. So this was, when you ask someone, you talk to someone about, what was a hit, what wasn't, people from those territories are going to name Shandy as among the first few Kiss songs that comes to mind when they think of big hits. Australia and New Zealand, of course, Kiss did that big tour, and that song was on the radio, I suppose, when that tour would have been going on. So if you were to say, wow, that was a near miss, they'll be like, what are you talking about? That was a huge hit. So it's interesting when you get into these bands, these world bands that chart worldwide. So next up, great pick for Grant from 1981, and a song I am amazed did not hit the top 40 considering how often it gets played. Go for it.
True. This song still gets played today. In fact, most people, when they think of this band, they think of this track.
Yeah.
Because this was their biggest track. Even though it only got to what, 49 in the States?
Crazy.
We're talking the song Tempted by Squeeze off the 4th album, East Side Story. This album was produced by Elvis Costello. The thing is, it was written by Glenn Tilbrook and Chris Difford, but the thing is, it's that Glenn Tilbrook doesn't sing it. It's sung by Paul Carrack, who was in the band Ace. And he was on this record playing keyboards, the only record that he was on. But he sang this because Glenn was a bit under the weather. So I think had Glenn sang it, might have been a different story, might not have been a hit, because I think what Paul Carrack brings to it, I think, is perfection. This song,
he's such a great singer.
Great songwriting, great production, nothing weak about it. The fact that it only got up to 49 is a crime. This is a number. Hey, when I listen to this, Tim, in my mind, you think of this and you listen to it and you go, well, this had to be a number 1 hit.
This might be one of the, I think of all the songs either of us picked, I think this is the one that most people would go, what do you mean this wasn't a hit? Not just a top 40 hit, but a top 10 hit. I hear this all the time. Right. Paul Carrack, talk about a guy that's been in, he was at the right place in the right time so many times. Like How Long by Ace was a big hit single. You got this song, you got Mike and the Mechanics, The Living Years, Silent Running, and then he had his own big solo hit, Don't Shed a Tear. Great singer, and it's almost like, oh yeah, he was in Squeeze for a minute.
Yeah. Too bad his tenure didn't keep going. I who knows what Squeeze would have done, but it's fine. It is what it is. It's considered one of Rolling Stone considered this one of the 500 greatest songs of all time. So it has to be good, Tim.
Yeah, for sure. So this song actually got to number 8 on the Billboard mainstream rock chart, which didn't start until 1981. So there's nothing prior to that. But so that just kind of shows you that, yes, obviously this got a ton of airplay. My next choice is from 1981. And, it's not a band known for top 40 singles, but they did have a single that got close. It was from a number 1 album. For those about to rock, we salute you, AC/DC, and Let's Get It Up. This song peaked at number 44 on Billboard, which, when you think about it, it's kind of surprising it got that high, considering, how many AM radio stations are going to play Let's Get It Up,
None.
But it peaked at number 9 on the mainstream rock chart, which kind of makes sense. A lot of these songs were top 10 mainstream rock hits, we will find. So yeah, AC/DC's success was never dependent on their singles. But yeah, this song came close to cracking, and it would have been interesting you have to wonder when a song gets that close back then, when you had all these different radio stations reporting in, maybe it was the difference between 1 or 2 major stations that didn't pick the song up. So, who knows? I find it a fascinating topic. So, we're going to go over to Grant, who's got a song from 81, but charted in 82 from a huge band. And I think this is a case of where maybe it was the 3rd, 4th single, and The record
Correct.
label just wasn't going to put any promo money into it.
Correct. This is, of course, it's the song we're talking about, "Secret Journey" by the Police. Now, Tim, when I listen to this, yeah, this is not going to be a hit. The only reason I picked it is because I love Ghost in the Machine. I think to me that was the best Police album. Now, when I heard it back in the day when I was a kid, I heard this record and I went, ooh, not for me. But man, as I've aged, I just absolutely love everything about it. I love the darkness of the whole record, the production, the Hugh Pageant production. This has it. I think it's some of the Police's best work. But would this have really been a hit? No, I'm actually surprised it got to number 46.
Yeah, it only hit number 29 on the mainstream rock chart. It's not single material. It
No,
doesn't have the immediate appeal, like, where you're talking about Ghost in the Machine. It doesn't have the immediate appeal of Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic or Spirits in the Material World, certainly. Even something like Invisible Sun.
no,
Um, so
no,
it's kind
not
of
at all.
interesting. I mean, I think that speaks more to the how big the Police were, that they could put a song like that and have it do as well as it did. So oddly enough, just getting off topic ever so slightly,
It's all right.
number 46 is also where a song of theirs peaked in 1986, namely the
Oh,
remake
oh
of
no,
Don't Stand So Close to Me.
bad,
Uh,
not good.
and I remember seeing that video all the time and hearing it on the radio and being surprised years later that it wasn't a bigger hit. Now, I'm not comparing the versions. I know a lot of people, most people don't like the 86 version. I happen to have a soft spot for it because
Oh,
it's the only Police single that came out once I was actively listening to the radio. It's the
mhm.
only new single they ever had out because everything else was prior. And it's the first version I heard, believe it or not. So it's the version I was the most used to. But yeah, I was surprised when that peaked at 46 as well. So
Yeah.
um, got one more from 81. And this is not, I would have brought this up anyway, even if I wasn't doing a deep dive series and had a book out on this guy. From Standing Hampton,
Oh
Sammy
yeah.
Hagar, I'll Fall in Love Again. Great pop rock song, first song on Standing Hampton. This is actually an edited version, which I don't think has ever been on CD before, nor has the B side Satisfied, the most excellent B side. But this song got to 43 on Billboard Hot 100, which means it was the most, like, blowing away any previous chart positions that Sammy had had. I think Plain Jane peaked at 77 or something like that. So, this was a new level of success for him. It's just a shame it didn't quite make it. On the mainstream rock chart, Hagar had a ton of hits on mainstream rock. This one peaked at number 2. So a very, very successful song, but just shy of hitting the top 40. I'm going to do the next one too because it's the only one from an album from 1982. Although this is a band that Grant and I have talked about ad nauseum, and I'm going to talk about them some more because they're fantastic. April Wine
Of course.
from Power Play, Enough is Enough. This song went to number 9 on the mainstream rock chart. Up here in Canada, of course, April Wine are Canadian. It peaked at number 11. But unfortunately, on the Hot 100, it only got to number 50. And actually, this single when I bought the single, somebody included this. This must have belonged to a jukebox.
Yep.
Enough is Enough, back with Ain't Got Your Love, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, Miles Goodwin could write these kind of songs in his sleep. And I've always really liked it. And, especially coming off Sign of the Gypsy Queen, but coming off of Nature of the Beast, I think Power Play should have done better, but it didn't. And so neither did the first single.
Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't even pick that because I'm not even sure where that charted here in the States. But I bought the 45 when it came out because I was
Yeah.
buying anything I could get a hold of back then. And I just played that over and over
So
and
it literally got halfway up the chart and stalled at 50, which is
yeah, I,
it's
the
interesting.
copy that I have is a picture disc, it's a picture sleeve and everything.
It's just got the Power Play. It's just the Power
It's
Play album cover, isn't it? Yeah.
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Um, Okay, so next, Grant
Uh,
has one from '83. This
okay.
is a singer from a very, very big band at the time, from I believe his first solo album. I'm not
Mhm.
actually familiar with this song.
It's a great song. This record doesn't scream hit though. When you think of the Cars, you don't think of the first Rick Ocasek solo album. And this is off of his first solo album. Of course, it came out in 1983. The single we're talking about is Something to Grab For. It's got crunchy guitars, a lot of synths on it. But it's when I listen to it, it seems to be more closely aligned to Cars Panorama than anything else. Actually, okay, it sounds more like it's a cross between Panorama and the Cars Door to Door. So if anybody knows those records, Panorama's kind of way out there, kind of very experimental, and then Door to Door's got a lot of crunchy guitars. This has a lot of synths, a lot of country guitars. Rick Ocasek sounds great. You do have, I do believe that you have who played. I think we do have a. I think Greg Hawkes did play keyboards on here. Now I'm not sure. I do know that Elliot Easton did play some guitar on this record. Not exactly sure if he's on this track, but I knew Greg
Well,
Hawkes is.
what was the album called? Beatitude or something? Was that the
Beatitude.
yeah?
Yep. Hmm.
Because I didn't know, honestly, I didn't know that I always thought that the '86, the one with Emotion in Motion, I thought that was his first solo album
Yeah.
because it actually had some success.
Well,
But
this came out, but Tim, it didn't do anything. You know.
right, so yeah, Greg Hawkes. Uh, did I see? I don't see Elliot Easton's name on here. I see Greg Hawkes credited as keyboards and co-writing on some of them.
Now, Elliot might have been on the next record then.
Yeah.
He's playing on one of these.
Do you suppose that this was a song that had been written for, say, Panorama or Shake It Up and didn't make the album, or was this
That I don't know. We're
because
talking this,
Panorama did not have, I think Touch and Go was the only top 40 single, and it wasn't a very big one.
right?
So they kind of had a dip there, and they came out of it.
And this doesn't even, if you're thinking Shake It Up, this doesn't sound like anything like on Shake It Up. So I don't know if these were new songs, old songs. I don't know. But something to grab for. I just remember seeing that video. They played it on Night Flight back in the day. And I was a big Cars guy, Tim. So I totally loved it. And even though it wasn't quite as commercial, that's right. The next album that he did, there's a little bit more commerciality there. But
Yeah.
I think it's a
Um,
decent record. Yeah.
so it peaked at 47, this song on the
Mhm.
Hot 100, but on the mainstream rock chart, yeah, people liked it. Went all the way to number 5.
Yeah.
So it obviously would have gotten whatever mainstream rock airplay. Like I've never, I grew up on the border, but I don't remember picking up any mainstream rock stations. But when I look at the songs that charted well on them, I wish I had, because there was a lot of good stuff. Um,
This is still pre-Heartbeat City, so
yeah, yeah,
I
it's
don't know if
interesting.
this. I don't know if this would have fared. Let's just think about this for a second. I'm not sure if this album would have fared better after Heartbeat City, or where it, originally placed. But I don't know. It's really not a very commercial record. I will leave it at
Yeah.
that.
So next up, we've got another song from 1983. Unfortunately, I don't have the single sleeve for this one, but I'll just show the CD. Great album from Heart, Passion Works, and a fantastic first song, first single, How Can I Refuse? Um, this song only got to 44 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was the first Heart album that didn't have a single that charted somewhere in the top 40, because even Private Audition had This Man Is Mine, which peaked at 32 somehow. I'm not sure how, but
Yeah,
how
and
can I?
I know, Tim. I know no one who could name any tracks off a Private Audition, but
Yeah, I mean,
just
but
saying.
this is a rocker, um, and the super super catchy chorus. There was a video to the song. I'm just surprised it petered out as it did. Obviously, this was the last album they did for Epic CBS. Probably no promo, even though
Nope.
the lineup on this album was the comeback lineup that 2 years later would have a number one album and 4 top 10 singles, a number one song. Like, the tide turned around so quickly for them. But this song did go to number one on the mainstream rock chart. How Can I Refuse? It's the only one that we're talking about here that went to number one on the mainstream rock chart. So if you find a song that got to number one, number two, number three on mainstream rock, chances are if it didn't hit the top 40, it was very, very close, because we're talking about popular songs in some form or another.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that didn't hit higher. This is like really, I know it's a different lineup than the classic lineup that everybody loves, but it still has that heart sound that, it's not that far off from Baby Lestrange. It's not full-blown commercial like the 1985 album. So it's kind of in that happy medium there because all the songs on this record are good. The only reason I think it didn't take off is because I don't think they promoted it. I think they just went, well, this is the last album
They threw it out. Yeah.
threw it out, see if it would stick, and nothing happened.
Same thing with Kansas Drastic Measures, same year. It was their last album for CBS, and they said, let's
Didn't
just
care.
that we're over it already.
Mm-hmm.
But the funny thing is, I mean, I'm sure we could think of examples of a band that had a hit in spite of the record company. And then, of course, the label would pat themselves on the back and say, didn't we do a great job promoting this? So next up is not quite, I don't think, at the same level as Tempted by Squeeze, but it is a song that you would think would have been a top 40 single, because most people that are familiar with 80s music could probably sing that chorus. So I'll let
my pick is of course we're in 1984 where this charted at number 46 in the States. Nick Kershaw, Wouldn't It Be Good? Now, this guy was more known for being like a pin-up type of character, nice looking fella. I don't know if people took him seriously. He didn't really have any hits here, but he was pretty successful over in the UK. He played at Live Aid, and it was really great. And Wouldn't It Be Good was like one of his first singles from 1984. His debut album, Human Racing, came out on MCA. That came out in January. But man, hooky, great production. It's kind of new wave and synth pop combined. Uh, the synthesizer riff's very memorable. It's considered one of his best songs, but it's catchy and it's just a great pop tune.
yeah, and it's
And
got some guitar in it too. Like, it's a
it
good mix.
does. But
Perfect for radio.
I'm just surprised. It got up to number 4 in the UK, but here in the States, Tim, no one seemed to care. I don't get it. But, a lot of these songs that I pick, I'm looking at them, I'm going, well, I love them a lot more than other people. But that just goes to show you how I'm looking at things. But
Well, I think one of the reasons that, so I looked at this, it only peaked at 58 on the mainstream rock chart. The mainstream rock chart went to 60 for some reason. I don't know why. But I think the reason that I know the song so well is because in Canada, this song went all the way to number 9. Like, this was a big hit up here. I remember the video very distinctly. He had like his how would you describe it? The suit he was wearing was like silver and shiny. And if you picture like the Michael Jackson Billie Jean video, wherever he steps on the sidewalk, it lights up. Well, basically Nick Kershaw's outfit was lit up all the time, but everybody around him wasn't. But what a great song! I think Peter Collins was the producer. I think that was one of his big.
And you know who produced that video? You know who directed the video?
Oh, it's probably Steve Barron.
No, Stor Thorgerson from
Stor
Hypnosis.
Thorgerson. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So,
wow,
very visual.
But I mean, you hear that you hear the title and it gets in your head. And I think a lot of people know that, at least the chorus. So yeah, the fact that it peaked at 46 is mine doesn't make any sense.
I mean, if you listen to like Sirius XM, you listen to First Wave, they play this
all the time.
It's new wave. But I guess maybe 84. I'm just thinking about what was going on the charts. Maybe it didn't quite fit here, with what was going on in the States. I don't know. It must have fit a lot better in Canada. I'll just leave it.
Well, as I've said many times, I mean, 1984 was such a fantastic year in music. Maybe there was just maybe he was just crowded out of the top 40. I don't know, but there was a lot of great music that year.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick in 1984 for this one. And this is a song I think a lot of people have forgotten about, even though the band's remained popular. All the way back to the debut album, Bon Jovi, She Don't Know Me.
There you go.
Now, this song, this was the follow-up single to Runaway, which cracked the top 40, hit 39. But what's unique about this song is that very rarely did they record songs that they didn't at least co-write. I mean, they've co-written a lot, you know, Desmond Child and Diane Warren and people like that. But this song was presented to them, or the record company asked them to do it, and it was written by a guy named Mark Absent. People will know that name, Donnie Iris.
Oh, yeah.
So
Wild Cherry.
Wild Cherry. So Mark Absek wrote She Don't Know Me. There's also a version that came out around the same time on a reunion album by, believe it or not, the Grassroots. I've never heard their version of it.
Oh my God.
But
I had no idea.
But the Bon Jovi version peaked at number 48. There was a video made for it. Only peaked at 44 on mainstream rock, but it's poppy. And I mean, when I first got the album in probably 87, the cassette didn't have songwriting credit. So I wouldn't have, if somebody said, well, there's one song on this album that none of the band members wrote, I wouldn't have picked this one because it sounds like the songs on that album anyway. So anyway, that's my next pick. And now here is where something interesting happens. This is where Grant and I line up because we each picked the same song from 1985. And I'm going to let Grant talk about it because this is the second time this band's been mentioned.
Yeah. Well, when I hear this track, this to me sounds like an obvious hit. Now, Everything Works If You Let It. Yeah, I like that song, but is it an obvious hit? No. This should have been a big hit. And then when I look at it, it only reached number 44 on the charts.
Yeah.
But I remember this got airplay on MTV. This, I remember hearing it on the radio. I thought when this came out, Tim, I thought Cheap Trick is back because everything is here. Hookiness. The production on this track, I have no issues with. Now, the whole rest of the record, I have a lot of issues with. But this, Everything Works. This was produced by Jack Douglas.
Doesn't particularly sound like Jack Douglas production.
Well, that's because if anybody, okay, here we go. If anybody knows the story, Jack Douglas was supposed to produce and mix this record. However, Yoko Ono in a lawsuit with Yoko Ono pulled Jack away. So they brought in Tony Platt.
Tony Platt. Yeah.
Now, that name I can barely say because as far as I'm concerned, Tony Platt ruined it. Okay, there was a CD set on not Omnivore, Real Gone, where they put out 2 CD sets of Cheap Trick stuff, a lot of unreleased stuff, etc., etc. They have a version of Little Sister that's on there that has the original Jack Douglas mix, not the crappy Tony Platt mix, but the Jack Douglas mix, and it's totally different. If you could let Jack have mixed this record, it would have been a different animal. But no, we're stuck with Tony Platt's mixed. And just don't get me going. I'm already going, Tim.
It's funny that you should mention that. I've never really talked about it before, but Tony Platt also engineered or mixed Y&T's Down for the Count album, same year, 1985. The one with Summertime Girls on it. And it was produced by Kevin Beamish.
Yeah.
And it's a terrible sounding album. It's very echoey and tinny. And I've never once heard anybody talk about, wow, yeah, we really wanted to work with Tony Platt. Tony Platt's the guy you got when nobody else was available.
Well, the problem is that they wiped Bunny off,
put
electronic drums on it.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious.
Loaded it down with synthesizers. It doesn't even set. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. Tonight It's You doesn't, it's perfect the way it is, but the rest of the record, they've ruined it.
Yeah, it's very noisy. It's very, very noisy production, very much of its time. But I'll be honest with you, Tonight It's You is the very first song I ever heard by Cheap Trick. And I heard it on Top 40 radio, and I
Yep.
heard it a lot for about a
Yes.
month,
Yep.
and then I didn't hear it again. And then it was years later that, well, when I was going to radio college, our record library had different. I was like, oh yeah, the title, I kind of remembered. I put it on. It was like, oh man, I forgot how good this song was. Like to me, yeah, you're absolutely right. Top 10 single. This
Oh,
had hook.
no doubt.
This had a killer hook. Xander's vocals, top notch. This should have been the hit that The Flame was for them. This should have been their comeback.
It should have been. I
It was
thought
a
it was, and I thought it was.
fantastic song. I don't remember seeing the video back in the day. See, wasn't there a boxing match or something? It was a
Yeah,
weird
it's
video.
like within a boxing ring. Rick
Yeah,
Nielsen had like a pink guitar, and
yeah. But this song only peaked at 44. On mainstream rock, it got to number 8. But man, oh man, like this was the one that got away. I mean, this is just a fantastic. It might
it's
be my favorite.
fantastic.
It might be my favorite Cheap Trick song. It
I
might, because to me it's so
I could
catchy,
get
and
it. Yep.
it's just and yeah, the production is of its time on there, but um it's not as bells and whistles and overloaded. Yeah, you're right. Like Little Sister, there's a good song in there, and um what else was on this?
Well,
Cover
listen,
Girl, that's a
just
catchy,
listen
catchy.
to that original mix of Little Sister by Jack Douglas, and it's a totally different animal.
Yeah. And I had a hard time finding this CD, by the way. This is actually this is not a US CD. It's from Europe somewhere. But
Yeah.
yeah, Cheap Trick, Tonight It's You, great song. If you've never heard it and you like a few Cheap Trick songs, it is classic pop rock for 1985, and should have been a huge hit.
And
And
the only other thing I want to add, Tim, if you think about the album The Doctor, look who produced it.
Tony Platt, yeah.
Tony Platt.
That's
And
even
what
that's
a
even
even
noisy.
worse.
Yeah, that's even noisier. God,
Oh.
It's so
But I
dope.
think Rick, well, think about this. I know we're on a tangent, but you remember when Cheap Trick was at a law, they had a lawsuit with Epic Records for
Yeah.
back royalties, like in
Mhm.
80, somewhere around All Shook Up, and
Yeah.
they lost the lawsuit. That's when they sold their souls to the devil. They
Yeah.
lost they had nothing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
Cheap
where it
Trick
all
State, they
started.
struggled through most of the 80s, but with this song, it really should have brought them.
It should have.
It really should have brought them back. And um, oh yeah, crap! I just had a thought and it just went right out of my head.
It
Oh,
happens.
I know what it was. Well, no, it's gone again.
It's all
uh,
right.
oh yeah, I know what it was. If you look inside, I don't know if it's in the CD or not, but um, I know inside the original vinyl, I think this is the one. Yeah, they fixed it here. They spell his name. They spell his name Rick Nelson.
Yeah.
And I remember reading an interview of him, like when the self-titled album came out in '97. He's like, "Why didn't that record sell? They didn't dot the I's and cross the T's. It takes about 10 seconds to check something like that." So I think that's got to have something to do with it, because any A&R person worth their salt could have made Tonight It's You a hit, because it's right there. All people needed to do was hear it.
Yeah, I don't
Sure.
remember getting much. Yeah, and back in the day, I don't remember getting much promotion. I don't even know how I probably read it in Rolling Stone that was coming out or something. You know what I mean? But I don't remember any promotion really.
Well, like I said, I remember hearing it a lot on the radio, and then it just stopped. I didn't hear it at all. So that means that, the playlists were heating up, and then the momentum just died. So the next one I want to talk about is from the tail end of '85, and this one's special to me because, like Tonight It's You,
Hmm.
this is also the first song I heard from this band that would go on to become one of my all-time favorites, Rush
Yeah.
and the Big Money. This is the first Rush song I ever heard. I heard it on the radio. And I remember distinctly, there was a top 40 station I listened to all the time. It was around Christmas break, 1985. And late, like 11 o'clock at night, they would have a top 5 most requested songs countdown. And so all week, this song was in the top 5. And I'd heard of Rush, but I'd never heard anything by them. This was the first song I heard. I thought it was catchy. And that created a monster right there. And I remember thinking when I got into them, I'm like, well, did that hit the top 40? Because I remember hearing it. It came very close. It peaked at number 45. So it got a lot of airplay in the US mainstream rock because it was accessible. It wasn't, heavy. And so I think it was deserving of being, maybe not a top 10 hit, but it would have been cool if it had hit the top 40. They came close before because I think Limelight peaked at 44 or no, 55, and Tom Sawyer peaked at 44. So they've come close. So in all that time, they only had one song hit the top 40, and that was New World Man, which if you were to ask somebody, what's the one Rush song that hit the top 40 in the States, they'd probably say Tom Sawyer. So it's not even their best known song, really. But anyway, Big Money peaked at number 4 on Billboard Mainstream Rock, hardly surprising. But yeah, just a near miss. 45 on the Billboard Hot 100. No, we're working our way through the 80s. Grant's got some movie music for us next.
I got movie music. Now this song, well,
This
this was
song had 2 lives, right?
had 2 lives in 1981. It was released on a record by this band, and it didn't really do anything. There now, you may like that version, you may like this version. I don't know. Both versions are great, but it had a separate life. We're talking about the track Pretty in Pink" by the band Psychedelic Furs. They did a re-recording that had a sax solo in it for the film Pretty in Pink. So it's very similar, except that sax solo, but it's a totally different recording. And if you ask anybody, what song did the Psychedelic Furs do? They're going to say Pretty in Pink. That is
Oh
what
yeah,
they're known
yeah.
for.
The title song for one of
Um,
those Rat Pack movies, right? I mean, and this one came so close.
It came so close, but it's great. But I'm surprised, as big as that film was, why didn't this even chart higher?
Yeah,
I mean, this film was a blockbuster to some degree.
yeah.
Uh, I don't know. I have no idea. A lot of these
41.
picks, yeah, but a lot of these picks, I'm
Like,
going, well, this doesn't make sense, Tim.
yeah.
Should have been
The
again.
video got played all the time.
Yep.
The song peaked at number 18 in the UK. And you're right. I mean, I think this is the first time, this is the first song I ever heard from Psychedelic Furs. Um, and they had other songs that came close to the top 40. I think Love My Way almost hit the top 40. But like like Rush, um, they had one top 40 single, and most people don't even remember it now. It's Heartbreak Beat. But I think
Yeah.
what happens is a band there's a buzz, and then the next thing they put out benefits from that buzz. I think that's what happened in this case. So um, also really weird side point about this song. When they shot the video to this song, I don't know if it was Wayne Isham. It was a big video director that did this video, but the
Hmm.
day of the video shoot was the day of the Challenger disaster in '86. Just a I guess if anything, that tells you exactly when they shot the video to this, but there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
So next up, we've got another case where Grant and I picked songs from the same band, 1 year right after the other. So I'm going to go first from 1986. Probably my favorite Southern rock band because they don't particularly sound Southern rock. 38 Special, Somebody Like You, from the
Great
album
song.
Strength in Numbers. This is a Jim Vallance co-write. It's super catchy, and it was the follow-up single to Like No Other Night, which I think went all the way to 14. Strength in Numbers only went gold. The last 3 that they put up went platinum. So they were kind of, dipping in momentum. This song got a lot of radio play, but it only peaked at 48 on Billboard Hot 100, went all the way to number 6 on the mainstream rock chart. But a great song, and if you were to hear it now, you'd think, well, this must have done just as well as, Hold On Loosely, Caught Up in You,
You would have
because
thought.
it just sounds like 38 Special in that period. So, but didn't quite make it. And another song that came even closer, Grant's going to talk about.
Yeah, we're talking yet another 38 special song. 1987 peaked at number 41 here in the States, and we're talking Back to Paradise. So, again, like what Tim said, this just sounds like yet another number one hit from 38 special. It fits right within all those other hits.
It was
Uh,
from what, Revenge of the Nerds 2?
yes, and this
Yeah,
was also on Flashback, the best of
Flashback, the
38
best
special.
of, yeah.
So it really didn't really appear on an album other than the greatest hits.
Right. But
This
it had a
was
video and it was
yeah,
promoted, and it was, this song was co-written by Bryan Adams, Jim Vallance, and Neil Giraldo, Mr.
yep,
Pat Benatar. So it's super catchy and it sounds like 38 Special. It
yeah.
just does.
Even though they didn't write it, hey, it's
Well, they didn't write Teacher Teacher either, and they made it their
no,
own.
but it checks all those boxes for
Yep.
me, Tim. This
Yep.
should have been a big hit, but we're talking they had a great stretch from like 81 to
Yep.
87. Things don't last forever. And by this time, 38 Special was kind of, well, they had their moment in the sun.
All of
Let's
these
face it.
bands, there's the peaks and valleys, right? Like, not
Mhm.
many bands stay big forever. But yeah, this song just missed the top 40 again at 41. Like that's almost like ouch. Like that's, you know. Uh,
Mhm.
but yeah, good pick. I'm gonna let Grant go again because it's the only
Okay.
song from 1988.
All right. Next, this is like from one of my all-time favorite bands. In fact, this is one of my all-time favorite tracks from this band. And again, when I think about this band, I don't really think of them as singles. I just hear the catalog and just think, God, these guys can write. The production's great. Everything is wonderful. It doesn't sound dated by today's, if I'm listening to it, there are no big drums. It
No
just
drum
sounds
machines, no
no drum
synthesizers,
machines.
yeah,
It's great.
no
This
hand
got
claps.
got no gang vocals. This got to number 42 on the chart. We're
Yeah,
talking Crowded House, Better Be Home Soon from their 1988 album Temple of Low Men. Absolutely. It's a beautiful ballad.
yeah,
Very melodic, acoustic guitar, catchy bass line, and Neil Finn on this track. Absolutely wonderful emotional vocal. Um, One of my favorites. It
yeah.
reached number two in New Zealand, number 42 in the US, but number two in Australia. So around the country, I don't know what it did in Canada.
Um, it did really good. There are two, depending on which chart you look at. There were two. You know how in the States at one time there was Billboard, which is kind of the go to, right? But then there
Mhm,
was Cashbox, and there was also radio and records. So I
mhm,
don't know. So in Canada, there was RPM magazine, which is where I get most of my info, and then there was one called The Record. Now in the RPM chart, Better Be Home Soon went all the way to number 8, but on the record, it went all the way to number 1. So this was a huge song up here. But Canada, like Australian groups, UK groups, Canada embraced a lot of those groups. Like, earlier, as we're filming this earlier today, I was on Logan and Sydney's channel talking about Nazareth. Nazareth were huge in Canada, and they're Scottish.
mhm.
So you just never know. And it peaked at number 18 on Billboard Mainstream Rock. So, yeah, this was really surprising because Crowded House, I mean, they had uh, Something So Strong, Don't Dream It's Over, two top 10 singles from their first album. This was the first single from their second album. And that was kind of it for them in the States, which is sad.
Yeah. But this was produced by Mitchell Froom. If
Yeah.
everybody knows who Mitchell Froom is, he was in Gamma. Well, he was
Yeah.
on one album on Gamma.
Yeah.
But keyboard player, he had during this period, he had a streak of great productions. He was like one of those guys people wanted to work with. And what he did with this record, and he produced quite a bit of the whole Crowded House catalog. Uh, just wonderful stuff. Wonderful stuff.
And he was married, or maybe he still is, but he was married to Suzanne Vega, right?
Yeah, they're divorced, but yeah, that 99.9 degree Fahrenheit record, he produced that.
Yeah.
He kind of has a certain sound to his productions, but it's
Yeah.
usually very clean. Uh, I don't
You're
know.
right. The
I like
Crowded
it.
House songs, when you listen back to 80s stuff, they do not sound dated.
No.
So there's something about that simplicity that that worked, that makes it surpass its immediate surroundings,
Mhm.
unlike the Tony Platt style productions.
Horrid.
uh,
Hey, now some people may like that. I personally, the Tony Platt, what his work doesn't do anything for me.
Look,
I'm
I
just,
have a guilt. It depends on the band. It depends on the artist. You know, I've got sometimes I can let things go if I really like the band. Like for example, we talked a lot about April Wine. I mean, you know, Walking Through Fire is not a great production, but I'll listen to it and I like a lot of the songs on it. You
yeah,
know, and that speaks to the strength of the song. Aldo Nova Twitch, another good example. That's a horrible
Twitch,
sounding album.
not
It's
good.
so 1985, but I think the songs are catchy. So it just depends, right? But I
But
can
then you,
understand someone new going back and going, "Oh man, that sounds dated."
but you know, with Twitch though, the record company had a lot to do with that. You know,
Oh
all
yeah,
the,
yeah. There was a lot of
oh,
pressure. I mean, he self-produced it, but there was an awful lot of. I
I
think
don't think
most of the songs are Lindrum, and anyway, yeah,
he didn't have much. He might have produced it, but I don't think he
he
had
had a
much
lot of
control.
he had a lot of advice, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, Grant and I are known to go off on tangents, and this is
yeah.
one of them, but that's okay. Two songs left. They're both from 1989. First one, criminally, this band could not get arrested in North America from 84, 85 onward. Queen, I Want It All. To me, this is just a can't miss
Mm.
rock anthem, catchy chorus, great guitar from Brian May. I do remember hearing this a fair bit on the radio, and at the time, I mean, I ended up getting way into Queen in like 92, like this huge renaissance with them. But at the time, I remember thinking this song was so cool. I almost bought the cassette single, but then I
Wow.
stopped hearing it on the radio. And this song peaked at number 50 on Billboard, but it went all the way to number 3 on the mainstream rock chart.
Yeah, I bought that CD when it came out.
Yeah.
I expected a lot more, but
Oh, if
it
everything on the
never,
Miracle was like this, but anyway,
yeah, the Miracle
nothing on any Queen
was,
album is like any one song anyway. But yeah, the Miracle is peaks and valleys, but that
yeah,
sure is
peaks
a
and
great
valleys.
song.
Yeah, okay, I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, my next one, I'm gonna go with the band that I fell in love with in 1985 with the Head on the Door album. I don't recall where I heard. Oh, I know where I heard it. I think it was Night Flight. I keep bringing up Night Flight all the time, but they played a video by the band The Cure, and I was just totally taken. It was like
Was it In
come to
Between
Jesus
Days?
moment in between days.
Okay.
The video was cool because they had mounted a camera on the end of a
Oh yeah,
guitar and
it's
they were
got that.
swinging it, and it was very cool. And that was Tim Pope. He
Yeah.
did a lot of those Cure, in fact, most of the Cure videos. I don't know about the later ones, but it was visually stimulating. The production was great. The songwriting, obviously, and the Cure looked great. So we're here. We are in 1989, the Disintegration album, which I think is the best Cure album of all time. This is the first single. Um, it's very dark. Would this be a hit here in the States? No way.
Honestly, I'm surprised this song charted as high as it did, and it must have been people were waiting.
46.
People were waiting for the new Cure because what was the one before the one with Just Like Heaven? Like they gained a new level. Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. Is that the one?
Yeah. Hmm.
So they gained a new level of popularity because Just Like Heaven was their first top 40 single. So I
Yeah.
think people were waiting, and Fascination Street was the first single. And you're right, it's a dark song, and
Yeah, because there's no real, this really isn't a pop album as opposed to there's a lot of pop things on Kiss Me. This is dark. This is, part
mind
of
you, it
the
also
whole
had Love Song, which went all the way to number 2.
true.
But this song, uh,
Didn't do
bold
anything.
move for a first single. Definitely
Bold
not
move.
pop friendly.
Yeah.
So
But I love it.
46 is a an admirable peak in the pop chart. Now, in late 1988 is when Billboard not only had mainstream rock, but then they had something called the modern rock chart, um, which is where a lot of bands I think would have charted higher had it existed before. But
Hmm.
by the time this came out, the modern rock chart was a thing, and Fascination Street was a number 1 modern rock song for 7 weeks. So it must have been getting a lot of airplay.
Yeah. Well, and the alternative
Yeah.
alternative crowd, but
But I
not
remember seeing the
pop
video in Much
mainstream.
Music. I mean, Much Music loved The Cure from probably from Head in the Door, because I remember first getting Much Music and seeing, like you said, In Between Days, but also
Mhm.
what's the one where they're in the
Close
closet?
to me, close to
Yeah.
me.
I would always watch that video. They're teetering on the cliff, and then they fills up with water, and it was so unique. So there you go, folks. Those are a bunch of songs that Grant and I listed that charted, that came up between 1980 and 1989 and came close to hitting the top 40 and didn't quite. So peaked between 40 or 50 and 41. So songs that would have gotten a lot of airplay. And in some cases, songs that a lot of people would know. Not in all cases, like some of these cases, like Secret Journey, for example, you'd have to be a big fan of the band and know the album tracks. But a
Yeah.
lot of these, like Wouldn't It Be Good and Tempted, I mean, these are songs that the average radio listener would be able to sing along with if it came on the radio. So
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by this. What makes that difference between a few chart positions more and what that means for a band's career and their album sales. And I have a feeling that we're going to do some more episodes of this type. So, Grant, thanks for sitting in. Don't forget to subscribe Grant's Rock Warehouse and the Contrarians. We love sitting in on the Contrarians. We do our Wednesday night shows. So, Grant, you've always got 1,000,006 things going on.
I do.
What's in the hopper right now?
What's in the hopper? Well, I'm doing I had the Parish of Rock on, and we did I haven't got it edited yet, but we just did an episode on the band Slade. So we just looked at two Slade albums, Slade Alive and Slade. So we're going through the whole catalog and discussing that. Monday night we're doing Anthony Ferraro and BM Bolt's coming back on, and we are going to look at Frank Zappa, Zoot Allure. So looking at a lot of records. We're all over the place, Tim. All over.
Yep, yep. And talking about music that nobody talks about, and that's what it's all
Exactly.
about, and hoping to turn people on to stuff. So hopefully, if you're a big 80s music fan of all types, pop, rock, whatever, and you've never heard some of the songs we're talking about, go on YouTube, go check them out.
Yep.
Maybe you've heard of the artist but not the song. I'm telling you right now, if you like mainstream commercial sounding rock, listen to Tonight It's You by Cheap Trick and marvel like we do that it wasn't a top 10 single.
I had.
So there you
I
go.
still can't get over it.
I know. It's so good. Grant, thanks. And thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you again on another edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions.